Returning to the story, there aren't many hints regarding where the entrance to the underworld is, so not knowing where to go, I decided to explore around Baron to see if there were any clues. Many of the residents will either be surprised or shocked that someone has been impersonating the king for so long. Some of the soldiers are also showing support for Cecil to take over. Speaking to this one guard here, they'll mention that they have been hearing the late king's voice underground. If you enter the eastern tower and go underground, you'll find his ghost sitting on a throne. He will then give Cecil a quest to find a summoner from the land of summons and bring them to him here, saying that only if they do that he will be able to help. Finding nothing else, you can leave the castle and start flying around the world. I eventually flew to Eblin Castle when looking for the entrance, and when you explore it you'll find that the castle was abandoned. In addition to that, there are plenty of treasure chests to find, but to get all of them, you'll have to find hidden passages as this place is full of them. But besides that, there is nothing else here to really find. Leaving and resuming the search, the party will eventually arrive at the village of Agat, a village where all of its residents are in some way a descendant of the dwarves. In the village, the party can also find the Coria Observatory, where they are currently focused on observing the moon due to some anomalous activity they noticed occurring on its surface as of late. They also make mention of there being two moons, where one is showing no signs of activity, whilst the other has shown traces of life, even turning into a reddish color, where the observer compares it to the color of blood. Taking a look through the telescope, we can see exactly what he means. Then heading into the local inn, the party can learn more about the underworld. One of the villagers mentioned that a reddish mass was swallowed by the northern crater. Another mentions that although Agat is peaceful, they do experience occasional earthquakes. Speaking to these elderly villagers, they also mention that their ancestors came from a crater from the mountains north of the village, but it is currently sealed. The old lady also tells us of a saying in Agat that when the Shining Stone is returned, the path home will be revealed. The Shining Stone being the magma rock the party received from Cain. Where it needs to be returned is not clear, but at least the party are on the right track. Going to the center of the village, this villager in front will mention that this well has been there for generations, so much so that the residents do not know how deep it goes. Going through the doors behind him, the party can interact with the well and are given the option to drop anything inside of it. Selecting the magma rock, the sky will turn red and a massive explosion will occur in the mountains to the north of Agat. Taking the airship and interacting with the crater, a cutscene will play where the party enters it. Upon reaching the bottom, the party will have found the underworld that Cain mentioned. While flying, the party will find that the Red Wings are already there and are at war with the citizens. Unsure as to how they got there before the party, Sid attempts to break through the front line. But unfortunately, the Enterprise gets caught in the crossfire and has to make an emergency landing. Waking up, Cecil checks on everyone, making sure they are alright. Unfortunately, it's risky to fly the Enterprise in its current condition, thus they will have to continue on foot from here. The party heads to the nearby Dwarven castle, where they then speak to King Giat. The king will welcome the party and ask their reason for being there, where Cecil tells him that they are in the search of the Dark Crystals. He notices that the party is not with the Red Wings, as he witnessed their airship being attacked by the Red Wings themselves. He informs the party that they have already lost 2 of the crystals, and also tells them that the tanks outside belong to them, and they are currently doing their best to stop the Red Wings from getting the rest. The king then asks the party for their assistance using the Enterprise, but before they can do so, Sid mentions that it was damaged from the crossfire and needs to be taken to the surface for repairs, saying that he will also need to upgrade it with mithril to armor it better against the heat, where the party wish him luck before he leaves. The party resumes a conversation and asks King Giada the locations of the crystals. He reveals that one of the crystals is actually behind his throne in the castle. Upon him finishing, Yang interrupts the conversation as he senses someone spying on them, where one of the Dwarven princess's doll hops in the background. King Giat, troubled by this, immediately orders for the doors to the crystal to be opened, and the party rushes in, where the door is then locked behind them to prevent the crystal from being stolen. Upon their arrival, the party finds a room littered with dolls. After a creepy dance scene with them, they tell the party they work for Golbez, and as a gift, they will kill us, initiating a fight. This fight has 2 stages, where after defeating a set of puppets, the rest combine and form Calcobrina, who will deal physical damage and use Confuse on the party, so just be careful of that. Also, something weird, when playing through the 3D remake, once you defeat the puppets, that's it, Calcobrina is absent for some reason in this version. Returning to the story, upon their defeat, they say that even though they have been defeated, Golbez is now aware of the location of the crystal. After disappearing, Golbez's voice is heard, where he says that their paths cross again, and after which he appears before the party and approaches them. To commend the party for finding their way to the underworld, he rewards them by revealing his plan. He explains that by collecting all 8 crystals, the Tower of Babel will be reactivated, allowing him to reach the moon and find the untold power that lies there. He will laugh at the start of battle and cast Icebind, which stuns the entire party. He will then summon a shadow dragon to assist him in battle, which casts Black Fangs on each party member, immediately KOing them. Before reaching Cecil, he is interrupted by the Mist Dragon, which casts Mist Breath on the Shadow Dragon, immediately defeating it. While Gobez is confused by this, a stranger immediately casts SNR on Cecil and asks if he is okay. Cecil recognizes the voice, and Rydia, in a surprise reveal, is alive and joins him in his fight against Gobez. And as far as I am aware, this is the first time in the series where a party member joins mid-battle. The battle will resume, where Gobez will cast powerful spells dealing damage to the party. During this battle, you'll also notice that Rydia no longer has access to white magic, but to make up for that, she has access to more summons and higher level black magic spells. For this battle, I also recommend having Cecil focus on life supports while having Rydia use summons, as the two of them on their own are quite risky. Additionally, I recommend getting Rosa on her feet as soon as possible, as she will speed up the process and help with the healing. After defeating Gobez, the party will catch up with Rydia. She explains that Leviathan took her to the Land of Summons, which is the world of the monster she summons. She goes on to explain that she had learned a lot there, and in exchange for becoming a stronger summoner, she can't use white magic anymore. She also explains that due to the flow of time there, she aged up quite quickly in a short amount of time, and also tells the party that the Queen of the Land of Summons told her that a great force is at work and they must confront it together. After the discussion, the party for some reason decides to leave Gobez lying alone in the room, not even bothering to check up on him, and surprise surprise, he was not actually dead. And the party for some reason washed his hand as it went to go grab the crystal right in front of them. Although in the 3 remake, even though they still make the dumb decision of leaving him alone, instead he quickly wakes up, grabs it and disappears before the party can even stop him. After this surprisingly avoidable theft, the party informs King Giat that the crystal has been stolen. He doesn't hold it against the party, but instead prioritizes the last remaining one. He informs the party that the last one is sealed in a cavern to the southwest, but he isn't worried as Gobez doesn't have the key to enter. Instead of sending them to fetch the last one, the king instead requests that the party retrieve the crystals that Gobez already has from the Tower of Babel. While the party is worried about how to enter, the king says that he already has a plan and will have his tanks distract the tower while the party sneaks in under their noses. He urges them to hurry so as to retrieve them before Gobez returns from the sealed cavern. The party then quickly discuss it among themselves and agree. Before leaving, the king will also mention that there's an exit in the castle basement and that the party can leave through there when they're ready. And before heading to the Tower of Babel, I just want to mention how tricky it was going through this castle. The Dwarven castle is much larger in comparison to the other locations, and there are multiple stairs that you can take to either go up a floor or down a floor, and all of them lead to different locations. So while I did like the attention to detail, some signs would have been appreciated. As the party also heads to the exit, you can also hear about Rubicante, the strongest of all the elemental lords, is currently at the Tower of Babel, something the party should just keep in mind as they explore. Finally getting out of the castle, the party can head to the northwestern corner of the island, and upon approaching it, the dwarves are upholding their end of the deal and are distracting the tower's cannons by constantly bombarding it. As the party gets closer, there will be intermittent pauses where the cannons and tanks exchange fire. Upon entering, the tower will have a similar design to that of the Tower of Zot. The party will then have to defeat numerous enemies as they climb to the top of the tower. Also, when exploring you'll find these chests, and when you open them, you'll come across these security eyes where only upon being attacked they will summon a chimera and attack the party. But if you leave them alone and buff your party, you can take them out in one hit before they have a chance to even call for backup. On the party's way to the top, they will stop and watch as Rubicante is getting ready to leave, mentioning that Eblin and its ninjas have already been decimated, and also explains why the Eblin castle the party found earlier was abandoned and why there were secret parts littered around. As soon as he leaves, Dr. Luge begins celebrating as both Gobez and Rubicante are gone and he's the only one in charge. He discovers the party are there due to Rydia's confusion in the celebration. After exchanging some words, the Doctor attacks the party, planning to use his greatest invention against them. So the fight with Dr. Luge is kind of a weird one, because during this fight, the Doctor's creation will attack him and they will be distracted while they bicker with one another. If you destroy the monster first, the Doctor will immediately take control of Barnabas and fight again. After defeating him, the party re-enters a fight with him, and this time the Doctor will take on a different form. During the second phase, the Doctor will hit the party with some powerful status effects, able to put a majority of the party members to sleep quickly and poisoning them. However, in the 3 remake he is much more trickier, as in this version, instead of using status ailments, he will instead hit the party with reverse gas, making it so that healing does damage and using elemental attacks heal. The reason why I say this one is worse is because if you're trying to throw an elemental spell to heal your party, you can use reverse gas again, leading you to inadvertently knocking out your own party members. Upon his defeat, the Doctor laughs, saying that the Tower of Babel connects the overworld and the underworld, and Rubicante has already transferred the crystals to the surface. He further adds that his cannons will annihilate the dwarves, prompting the party to urgently stop the cannons. For some reason, even when playing the recordings, the party obtained Dr. Luge's key, and I'm not sure if I missed something or if they forgot to add the part where you obtain it, and so I was a bit unsure what to do next, but I digress. The party rushed to the previous floor and used Dr. Luge's key to open the door to the cannon room. Upon entering, the party defeat the goblins controlling the cannons, but as a final access of their master, they destroy the cannons. The tower immediately starts shaking, and seeing no other choice, Young rushes to the cannons. The party try to stop him, but adamant about his decision, he kicks him out of the room and locks the door behind him. He thanks the party for allowing him to join them on their journey, while they are shouting outside for him to stop. He tells the party to tell his wife that he loves her and says goodbye. Suddenly, an explosion is heard from the room, and Young no longer responds. Having lost a friend, the party leave in silence. Reaching the exit, Golbez's voice is heard again, saying that this game ends now, and destroys the bridge the party is currently on, attempting to throw them in the lava. As they fall, Sid's airship returns in the nick of time and catches them. Upon landing, they inform him about Young's death, with Rydia sobbing and the party in low spirits. Before they can catch their breath, a red-wing airship that was chasing Sid earlier appears. Unable to shake their pursuers off their tail, Sid tells Cecil to take over. He walks to the side of the ship and tells them that once the Enterprise reaches the surface, he is going to seal the entrance with a bomb. He instructs them to find his men in Baron once they reach the surface and tells Cecil to take care of Rosa. After jumping off the airship, we cut to Sid giving his final words, where he makes a joke about going out with a bang and subsequently exploding, sacrificing himself to save the party. Returning to the party, they are all in grief after the two losses they have just experienced. Kane commenting that they were too hasty to choose death. At a loss for words, Cecil continues to Baron. Reaching the kingdom and speaking to Sid's crew, they'll tell the party that Sid ordered them to attach a hook to the Enterprise. A cutscene will play where they attach the hook and explain that it will allow the Enterprise to carry the hovercraft anywhere, even allowing the party to reach the cave of Eblin, which leads to the Tower of Babel. Before they leave, Cecil tries to tell them of Sid's passing, but they assume they were going to speak about his energy and work, so they just resume their work. Before heading to Eblin, I thought I would first explore the world, and there are a few things you can't find. First, you can't find the town of Mithril, where all of its residents are either animals or gnomes. To be honest, there's not much to find here, but if you use the hovercraft, you can find this cave right here. Inside are two gnomes who have found adamantite, but the one blocking the adamantite won't talk to the party unless they bring him a rat tail. Heading to Eblin Castle and using the hovercraft to cross these shallows, the party will then reach Eblin Cave. Upon going far enough, the party will find the citizens of Eblin who had escaped the castle during its siege. Speaking to them, they'll mention their kingdom has been destroyed and are unsure how long they have left until they run out of supplies. Entering this room, you'll find the other survivors. They'll speak kindly about the prince, but mention that due to the fate that befell his parents, he is seeking revenge. Speaking to the soldier before leaving, they'll tell the party that the passage leads to the Tower of Babel, the center of operations for Rubicante, the same path the Eblin prince went to head to scout. Traveling through the dungeon, the party will find fallen Eblin soldiers, where they all worry for the prince and ask the party to stop him. Reaching the end, the party will find him in a standoff with Rubicante, the Fire Elemental Lord and the strongest of the four. The two exchange words, where the prince's name is revealed to be Edge. The cutscene transitions to a fight between the two, where Edge is basically outflamed. Before leaving, Rubicante chooses not to kill Edge, but instead wishes to challenge him further, telling him to train. Edge tries to run after him, but due to his injuries, collapses again. The party rushes to him and checks if he is okay. They then introduce themselves and explain that they are after Rubicante as well. Hearing this, he immediately tells the party to back off, as that is his target. They try to explain to him who Rubicante is, but he ignores him, stating that he's the heir to Eblin, a kingdom famed for its ninjutsu. While the party bicker, Rydia shouts at him to stop and begins crying, recounting all the friends they have lost and not wanting to see someone else rush off to die. After her outburst, Edge is willing to listen and agrees to join, saying he could never bear to see a pretty girl cry. After Rosa heals him, he rises with energy, commenting on Rosa and Rydia's beauty, but Rydia immediately changes her mind and asks if they are sure about having him join them. So as you may have guessed, Edge is a ninja, and in Final Fantasy IV it seems that ninjas are somewhat the same. They still attack with specialized weapons such as kunai and can throw shuriken. But in 4, it seems they have been given their own set of spells called ninjutsu, where they can deal elemental damage and give themselves buffs as well as debuff the enemy. Returning to the story, entering the door that was behind Rubicante, the party find themselves outside the Tower of Babel. Another cutscene plays where Edge uses his ninjutsu to bypass the walls and allow the party to gain entry. Venturing deep enough into the tower, the king and queen of Eblin will appear before them. Edge will be surprised that they are alive, but suddenly they ask him to go with them. Unsure where they wish to take him, he asks and they respond, to hell. By the way, I know this part was meant to be serious, but it just got a chuckle out of me, just like with how sudden it was. The party enters a fight with the king and queen. who reveal themselves to be quite disturbing looking monsters. During the fight, Edge will try to stop them, where at one point they shift and break free from the spell. After they have broken free, they no longer attack the party and begin apologizing to their son, stating that as they are no longer human, they wish to disappear, leaving Eblin in his hands and telling him to take care of the kingdom. Edge, struck with grief, tries to stop them, but they both disappear, ending the fight. After the battle, Edge remains silent, grief-stricken by what happened to his parents. Rubicante appears before him, revealing that it was Dr. Luge's actions that turned them into monsters, and states that he overstepped his bounds, and surprisingly offers his condolences for his loss, stating that he only wished to fight him fairly. Edge, blinded by rage, tells him he doesn't care for his apologies, and leads to his rage evoking his dormant powers. Before engaging him in a fight, Rubicante will restore the party to full strength and begin the battle. During this battle, as you guessed it, Rubicante will use powerful flame spells like Fire and Inferno to deal damage to the party. He will also swap between his cloaked and uncloaked form, where in the cloaked form, spells will heal him instead of damaging him. Before falling, he commends the party, but warns them that he will rise again. After defeating him, Edge will tell his parents that they can rest in peace, but suddenly, the rest of Eblin's soldiers show up, a little too late to join in on the fight. Edge explains the situation to them, and he pauses and asks about Golbez, where, after the party explains who he is, states that he will join in on the fight, and only after defeating Golbez will he return to Eblin. Upon accepting the new king of Eblin's wishes, the old man wishes him luck on his journey, and leaves with the rest of the soldiers. Resuming the quest, the party reaches the crystal room, but upon entering, they fall into a trap that sends them all the way to the bottom of the tower. Escaping the trap, the party will eventually find an enemy airship. Against Radio's objections, the party takes control of it, being dubbed the Falcon by Edge. Leaving the tower, the party will find that they have fallen far enough to return to the underworld, and using the stolen airship, you'll find that while you can fly it over mountains, you still won't be able to go over the magma because it is not resistant to fire. Returning to the Dwarven castle and speaking to King Giat, a cutscene plays where the party explains that they were unable to retrieve the crystals. The king mentions that it's only a matter of time before Golbez retrieves the last crystal, as he is trying to open it by force. To make sure the party grabs the crystal first, he hands him Luca's necklace, the key to the cavern, and tasks the party with retrieving it. The party accepts the necklace and the task, but the only issue remaining is how to get to the cavern. Speaking to the dwarves, one of them mentioned that during the chaos they found an old man who was injured and is currently resting in the infirmary. Finding the infirmary, it's revealed that Sid survived the point-blank explosion from earlier and was rescued by the dwarves. A cutscene plays where the party is happy to find that he survived the explosion. Catching Sid up on what has happened thus far and the dilemma of the airship not being able to travel over magma, he immediately jumps out of bed and gets to work on the Falcon, even forcing the medical staff to help him. Once the ship upgrades are completed, Sid returns to bed. A fake-out death then happens again where Sid goes silent and immediately goes to sleep. After thanking Sid, the party can now use the airship to fly over the magma and access new locations. Before heading to the sealed cavern, I would highly suggest flying around and visiting some of the other areas. First, you can find this cavern called Sylvan Cave. This area is a bit of an annoying maze. The reason I say annoying is because it's easy to get turned around here, and also there are these floors that can deal serious damage to the party with every step. So just a bit of a heads up. Make sure you have Rosa cast floats in the party. This will allow them to not take any damage nor waste MP constantly healing the party. Because if you have encounters in here, the party will enter the battle, and if you haven't been healing throughout, you'll most likely just have 1 HP. Traveling far enough, eventually you'll reach this house here containing Sils, and at the end is Young. Speaking to them, they'll mention that he was found near the mouth of the cave, only being able to tell them his name before passing out. Unfortunately, there isn't much to do here at the moment, so we'll need to come back later. Heading to this cavern, the party will find themselves in the Cave of Summons. A short cutscene will play where Rydia mentions that this cave leads to the Land of Summons and suggests asking Leviathan for help. You'll also encounter lava floors here that act similarly to the acid floors in the Sylvan Cave, so again, I suggest using Float. Reaching the Land of Summons and speaking to the residents, they'll be happy to see Rydia, albeit some are wary of the rest of the party. If you also open this chest here, you'll find a rat tail, something the gnome in the cavern wanted in exchange for adamantite. Heading to the library, you can also read some books about the summons, which speaks about how the Queen of Summons first needs to be defeated before one can face the King of Summons. There's also mention of the God of Summons, and says that they are watching from far away. It mentions that he has never known defeat, and suggests that maybe he can truly be defeated by reflecting his strength at him. Heading to the library basement, the party can find the King and Queen of Summons. Speaking to the Queen, the party can enter a battle with her to prove themselves. When in battle, she transforms into Asura, a powerful summon that casts support and healing spells on herself. During the battle, she will constantly change heads and deal heavy damage to a single party member at a time, wiping them out quickly. After defeating her, she'll lend her power to Rydia and give her the summoning spell Asura. Asura, by the way, is an amazing support that, when used, will either protect the party, heal them for a large amount, or if you have any party members that are down, revive all of them. The only issue is that it's a bit unreliable because if you're looking for an emergency heal, she might just cast Protect and in a sense not help, so just be mindful of that. Then before speaking to the King of Summons and fighting Leviathan, I suggest healing up and preparing for it, as this fight isn't as bad, but if you're unprepared, he can wipe out the party quite easily. Speaking to the King beside her, he will commend the party for defeating Asura, and accepting his test, a battle will commence where he transforms into Leviathan. During this battle, Leviathan will just spam tidal wave from the party. The reason why I say it isn't difficult if you're prepared is that if you have someone constantly healing the party and don't run out of MP, it becomes more of an endurance test than a difficult fight. After defeating him, he commends the party and allows Rydia to summon him via the Leviathan summon spell, where upon summoning he'll just cast tidal wave, which will deal a lot of damage to all the enemies. Returning to the story, the party can make their way to the sealed cavern, and interacting with it using Luca's necklace, a bolt of lightning will strike the door and cause it to open. When exploring the caves, the party will have to get around using these ropes hanging around. Just be careful as some ropes don't lead anywhere and the party will have to climb back up. The climbing animation is fine here, but in the 3D remake, it's a bit more obnoxious as it's a bit slower, and yeah, the climbing isn't really exciting. Also, at some points the doors will turn out to be a monster and you'll have to defeat them. Just make sure that you also defeat them quickly or else they'll summon a Chimera Brain. Reaching the bottom, the party will find the crystal and be able to grab it without having to face a boss or something of the like. Leaving the room, the cavern will start shaking and the walls will start closing in on the party. The party will enter battle with the demon wall, where during the battle it will creep closer and closer, attacking the party with either a physical attack or use petrification buildup. So for this fight, it's best to go all in on defense and take it down quickly. After defeating the wall, the party is free to return to the entrance, and upon reaching it, a cutscene will play where a voice will tell Cain that he belongs to him and to bring him the crystal. Realizing it's Colbert's, the party tries to stop Cain from listening, and while at first it seems he was able to resist, he snatches the dark crystal from Cecil and runs away, laughing and saying that with this, the path to the moon will open, where the party watches on in defeat as he flees. The game then cuts to all the crystals, both dark and light, flashing. The Tower of Babel will surge with power as it activates. The party then returns to the Dwarven Castle and explains to King Giot what happened. Man, we have really been laying this down quite a bit since we got here. King Giot speaks of the legend of the Lunar Whale, saying that it is a huge ship born of a dragon. Realizing that the king was reciting the Mysidian legend, he explains that Mysidia exists and that the Elder is constantly praying. Believing the Elder to be praying for the Lunar Whale, King Giot tells the party to make their way to Mysidia at once. The only issue is that the party can't reach the overworld as the entrance is sealed and there's no way to get to it. Sid interrupts, saying that the party can dig through it as he walks into the room. He offers to install a drill on the Falcon and immediately gets to work. During the construction, Sid collapses from being overworked and is rushed to the infirmary to rest. The party gives their thanks to Sid and wishes him a full recovery before leaving, telling him to not worry about them as they'll be fine. With the drill installed on the Falcon, the party can now fly between the overworld and the underworld. So, before heading to Mysidia, there are a couple of things you can do to prepare. First, you can return to Fabul and speak to Young's wife. She'll be happy to hear he is alive, but is confused as to why he won't return home. She gives the party a frying pan and tells the party to smack him on the head with it. Doing as she says, when using the frying pan on him, while the Sylphs aren't too happy about it, it does manage to wake him up. Happy to see them, he gets ready to join them, but before he can do so, the Sylphs stop him and say they'll fight in his place as he needs to rest. They do so by permitting Rydia to summon them at any time during battle. When summoned in battle, the Sylphs will cast a spell that heals the party while also dealing damage to the enemy. While it isn't the strongest ability, it is useful for passive healing and damaging, a best of both worlds move. If you also speak to Young's wife after this, she'll thank the party again and reward them with a kitchen knife, which isn't the strongest but is stronger than some weapons. Next, heading to Baron and speaking to the king's ghost, he explains that while he may be slain, he has been given eternal power. He offers to lend his power in battle only if the party can defeat him, where he fights the party as Odin. To be honest, I was over-leveled for this fight at this point, as nothing was stopping me from finding and battling him earlier in the game when the party returns to the surface. So this fight was a bit of a walk in the park. Upon defeating him, he accepts his defeat and Rydia learns the spell Odin. And finally, swapping to the Enterprise, you can return to the gnome guarding the adamantite and give him the rat's tail. In return, he will give you some of the adamantite's ore. After that, return to the Falcon and go to the underworld once again. You'll want to find Kokel's smithy here and speak to its blacksmith. The Kokel blacksmith refuses to smith anything unless he gets some adamantite, and giving the ore to him, the party will also have to give him the Sword of Legend. Following and speaking to him again, he'll give us the Holy Sword Excalibur, one of the strongest weapons in the game. Returning to the overworld and heading to Mysidia, the Elder was waiting for the party's return. He'll invite them to join him at the Tower of Worship, whereafter the screen will fade to black and the Mysidian legend will be shown again. At the top of the tower, the mages have gathered to pray for the legend. We cut to the overworld where a whirlpool opens and a giant airship reveals itself. Returning to the party, the Elder reveals that the airship is the legendary lunar whale, and he tells Cecil that a voice told him that he needs to fly to the moon using it, as someone awaits him there. To get to the moon, there will be a crystal inside that will take them there. The party enters the lunar whale, and the ship is similar to the Invincible in Final Fantasy III, where to fly the ship you'll have to go to its controls instead of just interacting with the airship, although it lacks the portable shops and resting area. Entering the lunar whale and interacting with the crystal in the center, a cutscene will play that takes us to the moon. Unfortunately, while the moon has its own dedicated map, it doesn't have many areas to explore like the underworld. There are two major locations, one of which is optional. So before making their way to the giant crystal castle, the party can enter this crater here and find the cave of Bahamut. Here you'll have to face some seriously tough bosses, and at the end, you'll find the god of summons himself, Bahamut. Speaking to him, the party will immediately enter battle with him. So, just a bit of a warning, this is an insanely difficult fight if you don't know the way to defeat him. So, during the battle, Bahamut will spam the move Mega Flare after a countdown, which does insane damage to the party, wiping them all out in an instant. But, if you remember the books from earlier, they suggested that the only way to defeat him is to reflect his strength back at him. So with this in mind, I would recommend casting Reflect on Rosa and having Rydia spam Leviathan or Asura, because surprisingly enough, Mega Flare is able to be reflected, and Bahamut will take damage from it. The reason I recommended this is because at this point in the game, Rosa is the only one who can cast Reflect. And also with her having Reflect on her, she can revive the rest of the party and give them Reflect. The first person I would recommend maybe reviving is Rydia, because then you can use her Asura to possibly revive the rest of the party, or spam summons to deal damage to Bahamut. After defeating him, he will commend the party and permit Rydia to summon him, allowing Rydia to learn Bahamut. And by the way, this summon is insane with the amount of damage it deals, because it can instantly wipe out enemies or deal a significant amount of damage. Returning to the surface, to reach the crystal building in the center you'll have to land the lunar whale here and travel from this spot all the way here. And yeah, it was annoying finding this location, but I digress. Reaching the tower, the party can find two areas adjacent to the main pathway where they can heal up and recover MP. Approaching the throne in the center of the room, a light descends onto the throne and flashes, and an old man appears. He reveals himself to be Fusoya and is a protector of the slumbering Lunarians. He explains that long ago, a small planet between Mars and Jupiter was on the verge of destruction, and its inhabitants escaped to Earth via a ship. But due to humans still evolving, they created a moon where they could slumber until humans were ready. However, a Lunarian named Zemus refused to sleep and wanted to raise everything on Earth and create a new home there. Fusoya managed to seal him and put him into a deep sleep, but unfortunately, he channeled his power and corrupted some of the inhabitants of Earth, using them to gather the crystals and activate the dimensional elevator in the Giants of Babel, intending to destroy everything on Earth with it. He also explains that his younger brother Kluya built the lunar whale to allow transportation to Earth, bringing with him the Devil's Road and airship technology that was born from his desire to explore. He adds that Kluya fell in love with a woman on Earth and had two children, one being Cecil, while the other is not mentioned. Hearing this, Cecil learns the voice he heard on Mount Ordeals was indeed his own father. Fusoya further explains that Cecil received Kluya's power to stop Zemus and his plans. He then goes on to say they now need to head to the Tower of Babel and stop the Giants of Babel. Lending his power to the party to enter the tower, he joins the party. Before continuing, Fusoya is similar to Tella as he is a sage as well and has access to all types of black and white magic. But unlike Tella, Fusoya can use Meteor and Flare. Earlier, I also spoke of another support that can cast Reflect. Well, Fusoya is that second character. So if you want to go into battle with Bahamut with a bit more support, you can recruit him first and then fight him. Before leaving, you can also head to the room behind Fusoya's throne. In here, you'll find 8 crystals in the room as well as a door to the central core, the location of Zemus and the slumbering Lunarians. Interacting with them, they will reveal that the crystals on Earth help maintain the equilibrium that keeps the moon in orbit. They also explain that they keep Zemus sealed away, and Zemus himself raised his own barrier from within to seal the path to the core. Returning to the lunar whale, we can then fly back to Earth. A cutscene plays where the party discovers that they are too late to stop the awakening of the Giants of Babel. We then cut to the Giants of Babel rising and laying waste to everything in its path with a massive destructive beam. But suddenly the Giants is attacked by a group of tanks from the underworld. It's revealed that King Giat and his daughter, a questionable move on the father's part to bring his own daughter here, but anyway, have joined the fight. It's also shown that Young is in one of the tanks wishing to help the party in any way he can. Following that, a group of airships arrive, where Sid and Edward are assisting in fighting off the giants. It's also revealed that the Elder revived the twins off-screen, and they are aiding in the battle against the giants. Taking advantage of the giants' confusion, the party uses Sid's airship to sneak into the giants and destroy its core. I have been saying giants way too much. While making their way to the core, the party will be stopped by the revived elemental lords, who reveal that Zemus has granted them a second chance at life, and watching the party battle has taught them the value of teamwork. Before fighting, Rubicante heals a party and they enter a gauntlet where they'll have to fight each of the elemental lords one by one in the order they face them. There isn't much to add here, the bosses function the same as when the party first faced them, so the strategies from before still apply, but this time they have more moves at their disposal. After defeating them and making their way up the stairs, they reach the core. The party will then enter a fight with it. During the battle, there will be two small nodes and a large spear, which is the CPU at the back. The attack node will deal constant damage to the party, while the defense node will constantly heal the CPU. While the two nodes are present, the CPU won't attack, but it will reflect damage to the party if they try to use magic to damage it. Once all of the nodes are defeated, the CPU will use Globe 199, which deals a lethal amount of damage to a member of your party, knocking them out instantly. Eventually, the other nodes will regenerate and you'll have to defeat them. For this fight, it's best to ensure that two people are constantly healing and making sure that Rydia can always use Bahamut as the damage bypasses the reflect. This will also be a lengthy battle, so just be prepared for that. After defeating the CPU, Golbez will run in and Fusoya will break the hold that Zemus has over his mind. Golbez will stop and be confused as to why he had so much hatred inside himself, after which he reveals that he is the son of Kluya and is Cecil's brother. Fusoya explains to Golbez that he was a puppet in Zemus' plan and that he was chosen because he is part Lunarian. Cecil is shocked and distraught over the fact that he was fighting against his own brother the entire time, and can't help but wonder what would have happened if it were him instead of Golbez that was mind controlled. Golbez explains that he was chosen as he had evil in his heart and Zemus took advantage of that. And after explaining himself, he leaves to fight Zemus, but before going, Fusoya joins him. The party question if Cecil wants this, but he's struggling to accept that the person he wanted revenge against was his brother all along. But before they can go any further, the giant begins to shake, and Cecil is unable to focus. Kane then appears again, although the party don't trust him this time. However, Rosa tells him to hurry and they all follow him, escaping to the Lunar Whale. Kane tries to speak to them, but Edge is not over the betrayal that he experienced last time. Thus, Rosa has to step in and stop them from fighting and defend Kane. Kane, confused, she explains the situation to him about Cecil and Golbez and tells him about Zemus. After hearing this, Kane decides to follow Golbez and Fusoya and wishes to fight against Zemus as well. Then coming to an agreement, Edge also wishes to fight Zemus as well. Cecil, returning to his senses, decides that they are to head to the moon and fight. However, he then tells Rydia and Rosa that they can't come along as it will be too dangerous. At first they protest, but Cecil is adamant, thus causing Rosa to leave without a word and Rydia to leave in a huff. Having left, the three set off to the moon, ready to fight Zemus. But before they can disembark, it's revealed that Rosa hasn't left and states that she doesn't want them to be apart and whatever happens doesn't matter as long as they're together. After making up with one another, Rydia reveals to also be there as well, and Cecil finally understands that the war is all of theirs and agrees that they need to fight together. Returning to the crystal tower and standing on the glass panel, the crystals guide the party towards the core, where they are teleported to Lunar Subterrane, the final leg of the journey. In this area, the party will have to make their way to Zemus, but like the previous installments, if you explore the area, the party will find legendary weapons like Murasame, Ragnarok, etc. However, for the Ragnarok fight, you'll fight a dark version of Bahamut. The same strategy as before works, but this time Bahamut will also use Reflect and Flare on itself to deal damage to the party. Reaching the core, the party will find Golbez and Fusoya about to confront Zemus. They then enter battle with one another, where it seems that Fusoya and Golbez were actually able to defeat Zemus. The party goes on and congratulates them, but Cecil is still unable to speak to his brother. While distracted, a flame appears in place of Zemus. It reveals that it is the hatred of him and doubles itself Zeromus. Golbez and Fusoya then enter battle with it once more. However, the attacks are useless against it, and in a last effort, Golbez tries to use a crystal on it, but due to him using the power of the dark, the crystal cannot cleanse his sin. It immediately defeats them using Meteor, and the battle ends. We cut to the people on the Tower of Worship watching the battle unfold. The Elder tells everyone to pray for them and the planet, and instructs Param and Pollum to gather everyone's wishes and send them to Cecil. Everyone that the party has met on their journey begins praying for their safe return, each giving words of motivation. We return to Cecil, who stands again, and Golbez gives him the crystal and tells him to use it against him. The party enters a battle with Zeramus, where the party are revived by the prayers that all their friends and allies are sending them, restoring them to full health. During this battle, the party will be in this fast-moving area, which is due to Zeramus' time distortion. The party will be unable to do damage until Cecil uses the crystal. Upon using it, Zeramus reveals his true form, where he turns into this large beast. During this battle, he'll constantly use attacks such as Big Bang and Flare, which deals a large amount of damage to your entire party. He also removes buffs or magic on the party through the use of Black Hole. I strongly recommend that you keep Rosa on healing duty and spam Bahamut, because if you aren't careful with Zeramus' rate of attack, it's easy for the party to get wiped. Before Zeramus perishes, he will say that as long as evil exists in the hearts of the living, he will not perish, finally dissipating. After that, Fusoya will commend the party and say humans have evolved beyond Lunarians already. Kane, bothered by Zeramus' last words, is told by Fusoya that true evil will never die and that all living creatures have it alongside goodness. Thereafter, Fusoya states that he will return home, and the party says they plan to do the same. Before leaving, Golbez asks if he can join Fusoya, as he cannot return home after all he has done and would like to meet his father's people. Fusoya accepts this, but warns him that he needs to be prepared for a long sleep. And before leaving with Fusoya, Golbez speaks to Cecil and says he heard him shout his name in worry earlier, and asks if he has forgiven him. But Cecil is unable to answer, leading to Golbez believing that he hasn't, and leaves. The party rushes to Cecil, asking if this is what he truly wants. Finally building up the courage, Cecil runs towards him before he leaves and says goodbye to his brother, where Golbez is surprised by his words and thanks him. We cut to the solar system, where the Mysidian legend is read again. One born of a dragon, bearing the darkness and light, will rise to the heavens over the still land. The moon's light eternal brings a promise to earth with bounty and grace. Before long, the moon would set forth on a voyage once more, seeking out its light. Though of shed blood, time's march keeps the two separated, one on Earth, one on the moon. After the legend is shown, the lunar whale returns to Earth, where cutscenes play out showing the party returning to their lives. In Mysidia, Pollum and Param are shown to be returning to their studies. In Eblin, Ed is learning to be king, albeit he is still struggling to grapple the basics and can't stop thinking about Rydia. In the Land of Summons, Rydia chooses to continue her training, and back in Fabul, Young has been made king and is ready to join the other monks in training. In Damcian, Edward is helping to repair the castle, doing his best to take care of his people and uphold his promise to Anna. And cutting to the dwarves, they are repairing the castle. Having run out of materials, King Jot tells him to scrap the tanks as they are no longer needed. His daughter is curious about how Cecil and his friends are doing, prompting the king to reveal that Cecil and Rosa have been made the new king and queen of Baron, and they have been invited to the coronation ceremony. We finally cut to Kane, who is alone on Mount Ordeals without his helmet, stating that he is unable to face them yet and wishes to test himself to be a better dragoon than his father was. After that, we cut to Korea Observatory, where the astronomers discover that one of the moons is floating away, where we are shown it slowly but surely leaving Earth's orbit. We finally cut to Cecil and Rosa, where Cecil suddenly stands in surprise. He explains to a curious Rosa what happened and tells her that he thought he heard his brother's voice. He brushes it off as his imagination, but is interrupted by Sid, who rushes them for their big day. After Rosa and Sid leave, Cecil speaks to himself, saying he definitely heard his brother saying so long. We cut to the throne room, where all of the friends Cecil met on his journey come in one by one to pay their respects in their own unique way. And after they have done so, they all celebrate, bringing an end to the story of Final Fantasy IV. So, with the story finished, I would like to give my thoughts and discuss certain aspects. First, I would like to give a quick discussion around Cecil. There isn't much to add from the last time I described him. His story comes to a wonderful conclusion as he becomes a king of Baron alongside the women he loves. Although the story was fine, it did seem a bit out of nowhere with him forbidding Rosa and Rydia from joining, but if you take a deeper look, it does make sense. When Golbez was freed, Fusoya mentioned that Zemus controlled him due to his Lunarian blood. When learning about this, Cecil was afraid to wonder what would have happened if Zemus controlled him instead of Golbez. And if you bring in the argument that Kane was also mind-controlled by Zemus, you'd be incorrect actually. Multiple times throughout the story, it's mentioned that Golbez was the one controlling Kane. The way I look at it is that if Zemus was able to have this much control over Golbez from the moon, he must be much stronger the closer you are. In addition, he uses the evil in people's hearts, and Cecil may have been worried that Zemus could take control of the remaining darkness from when Cecil was a Dark Knight and use it against him. Because of that possibility, he didn't want to risk hurting Rosa or Rydia, the two people who are the closest to him. Next, I want to speak about Golbez. In the story, it was revealed that Golbez was Cecil's brother. This was slightly alluded to when the party first met Fusoya, but there were hints they shared a connection. When Golbez was about to finish off Cecil in the Tower of Zot, he was unable to. This could be either Fusoya's intervention or the spirits of their father Kluya stopping him. Because on Mount Ordeals, the light never mentioned anything about killing Golbez, as it said that Cecil must stop him. but that may be a bit of a reach. In the 3D remake, they also give him a bit of a backstory and explain how Cecil arrived in Baron. In the past, his name is revealed to be Theodore. While his father was still alive, Cluya taught the village that he lived in how to use magic. However, as the villagers learned how to use it, some wished to use it for more nefarious means. While Cluya was also a master of magic, Theodore himself at that age still struggled with simple spells like Cure. One night, he found his father staring at the moons, probably missing home. When returning to his mother, he finds out that he's going to be a big brother and barely contains his excitement. Unfortunately, Cluya was attacked the next morning by those who disagreed with his teachings, and in his final moments, he asks his son if he was wrong in teaching them magic. But Theodore tells him he can't blame himself as you can't choose how people use what you teach them. Thanking his son, he succumbs to his wounds and passes away. In a desperate attempt, Theodore tries to cast Cure multiple times on his father but is unsuccessful. Upon the birth of Cecil, his mother dies while holding him in his hands, wanting to have held her child before passing on. After an unknown amount of time, Zemus tries to take hold of Theodore, feeding on Theodore's belief that Cecil was the reason for his parents' death and sowing the seeds of evil in his mind. Out of hatred, he took Cecil as a baby to the forest at the edge of Baron and left him there, while he himself fled to the borderland. Fortunately, the king of Baron found him, and due to his resemblance to his mother, Cecilia, he took care of Cecil. But after breaking free of Zemus' control, he shows more care for Cecil and remorse for his actions. With this, I feel the story also avoided the murderer trap that Final Fantasy III had with Xande. Even though they replaced him with a more evil being, they incorporated it in such a way that it made sense and didn't just feel like they disposed him. Overall, it was a pretty good villain for the story. Another thing I wanted to mention was Rubicante. I personally enjoyed his interactions because he wasn't a generic villain that the party was meant to defeat. What I found the most interesting was that he doesn't wish to kill the party outright. Instead, he seeks a challenge. This could be a type of character who has become so strong that he thirsts for a deadly battle, which is why he didn't kill Edge the first time. Additionally, before every battle with him, he heals a party. It is either that or he operates on a different set of principles compared to the other elemental lords. While I didn't have any major issues with the story, I do feel that the Underworld arc fell a bit flat, especially with the two fake out deaths in the middle. For Young's death, I could understand why he had no other choice, but for Sid's, they don't really explain why he couldn't just throw the bomb to seal the crater. The reason for the like-out death is probably to ensure there was a proper explanation for why he couldn't upgrade the airship, thus slightly limiting exploration. That's the best reason I could come up with, but if they were going to go for this reason, I feel it would have been better for him to stay behind and help the dwarves with their tanks to hold off Golbez's army instead of just jumping into a crater and exploding himself. Although he doesn't know the technology as an airship maker, he should have been able to pick it up rather quickly and assist, giving him a legitimate reason for being stuck there. But if they were trying to do this just to ramp up the emotions during this scene, then yeah, don't do that. It kills the momentum so badly that when Sid was going to jump, I laughed a bit at how quickly they were killing off characters. Unfortunately, as much as I want to cover Rydia, I don't really think there's much to add to her arc. I do believe there is a sort of father-daughter relationship between her and Cecil, but there isn't enough for me to discuss. I feel this final part of the story didn't offer as much character growth for the side characters as the previous chapters did. Oh, and just one minor thing I almost forgot to mention. In the pixel version of the game, there is a character called Namingway who can change the name of your members in your party. However, in the 3D remake, he can't change the party's name due to the voice acting. So he has a side quest where you can find him exploring different paths he could take in his life. Additionally, in the 3D remake, you can also find augments that give the party special abilities once they equip them to that specific member. I found this interesting as it kept special mechanics like twin cast from being discarded just because that specific character is no longer there. And to wrap it up, this was one of my favorite installments of the game thus far. From a story standpoint, it was well done with a few minor hiccups here and there. The combat was revitalized in this one as the introduction of the ATB system increased the excitement of battle, eliminating the sluggishness felt later in the game. However, the only issue I had was that the Paladin class felt extremely lackluster. Even though it has great significance in the story, it's quite easy to hit the ceiling with this class, making it feel like the weakest class in the late game especially. So in terms of ranks, I'm placing Final Fantasy IV, the Pixel Remaster second, and the 3D remake first. The main reason I'm placing them at the top is because they did a massive upgrade compared to Final Fantasy III in terms of story, and was even better than Final Fantasy II so far. And also, I really enjoyed the introduction of the ATB system. The reason also why I'm placing the 3D remake above the Pixel Remaster version is because even though there isn't much difference, the main reason why the 3D remake stands out is because of the voice acting as well as some additional key points in the story. For example, Theodore's background. That is completely absent in the Pixel Remaster, where here it gets its own dedicated section. I'll also do Final Fantasy IV the After Years at a later stage, because playing the Pixel version and the 3D remake was not the greatest idea, so for now I'm going to take a break from Cecil's story. Later, I hope you can join me for Final Fantasy V, and thank you for watching the video.